Welcome back to Financial and Industry Aspects. Today we're going to be looking at the second module, which is keeping informed about the current affairs related to one's own industry. Here are the module outcomes for this module. Firstly, to identify any events in the physical environment that could impact on a selected industry. Identify events in the social environment that could impact on a selected industry. Also, identify events in the economic environment that could impact on a selected business sector. And then identify people and companies in the news. Let's look at the events which could impact in the physical environment. Your particular business sector is affected by your actual environment. The easy example is, for example, the agricultural industry that is dependent on the seasons for certain crops to grow in the correct season. Other areas to consider is the fact that floods could cut you off from where you're actually delivering a service and your customers cannot, for example, get to you. The actual environment can also really affect how you perform. Your business does not operate in a vacuum. It's constantly affected and impacted by factors within its environment. These factors are largely out of your control, and you actually have to access the impact and plan accordingly. For example, there's not much you can do to prevent floods, earthquakes, drought, and any other natural disasters. But you can do a risk assessment and take out insurance cover to cover your business against any damages. Now, to collect and organize information relating to the current events within your physical environment. This would mean being aware of what is actually happening with the environment of the country and even your own province's challenges. For example, shortage of resources, cost of energy, cost of pollution, damage to the country's natural resources, unfavorable public sentiment. Please complete class activity 3 in your workbook. Okay, moving on. Let's look at the events in the social environment. Your business is also impacted by the social environment or society in which it operates. A person's social environment includes his or her living and working conditions, income level, education background, and the communities that he or she is part of. The social environment also includes human disasters, accidents, epidemics, pandemics, HIV/AIDS, crime, war, and any other people-related incidents and issues. Now, let's look at the terms social environment and list any possible related events. There could be, for example, political, economic, as well as social inequities of the past have resulted in high poverty rates, high levels of illiteracy and unemployment, and distorted patterns of resource use and waste generation in South Africa. The focus in South Africa at present is on meeting basic needs, which is proper housing, water supply and sanitation, electricity, healthcare, and other services. Possible related events include the following: population growth, implication of crime for your business, as well as implication of HIV/AIDS for your actual business itself. Now, in order to collect and organize information related to social events and social environment, as a small business owner, you will need to be aware of what is actually happening within the social environment at all times. You perhaps might need to adjust the way you do business or even market yourself. The media is the first place to actually start regarding what is currently happening. Of course, keep on top of the news by reading your newspapers, the internet, listening to the radio, subscribing to sites, all online. There are many mediums in which you can keep up to date. Now, let's give a brief indication of how one such event could actually impact on one subsector of a selected industry. Let's take, for example, the retail industry, in particular is affected by, obviously, crime in South Africa. For the smaller dealers, there are immediate losses in costs. The direct costs are more physical costs, such as merchandise, cash, or even equipment being stolen. Direct costs also include malicious damage due to breaking and entering, vandalism, as well as sabotage. Please complete class activity 4 in your workbooks. All right, let's look at now the events within the economic environment. The economic environment influences factors such as an inflation, recession, exchange rates, and monetary policy of governments, as well as the job security and financial well-being of citizens. A war in one part of the world has a direct impact on factors like the oil price. When the oil price goes up on world markets, our petrol price goes up. If the oil price goes up enough, we feel the impact in the prices of other consumer goods, which also will go up. The economy is also influenced by a variety of factors, namely technology, politics, the natural environment, and social as well as international trends. All these influences causes changes in economic growth, levels of employment, consumer income, the inflation rate, as well as the exchange rate. The resultant prosperity or even decline of the economy has far-reaching effects on a business's profitability as well as viability. Inflation is, as we mentioned earlier on, is a general rise in prices across the whole economy. This is distinct from a rise in the price of a particular good or service. Individual prices rise and fall all the time in a market economy, reflecting consumer choices as well as preferences, as well as changing costs. Interest rates. The monetary policy operates by influencing the price of money, that is the cost of borrowing and the income from saving. Changes in the official rate then affect the whole range of interest rates set by commercial banks. Also, building societies and any other financial institutions which their own savers and borrowers. It also influences the interest rates charged for overdrafts and mortgages as well as savings account. And remember, the monetary policy is set out by the Reserve Bank governor. Retrenchments. Organizations have to sometimes retrench workers for economic reasons, and because they have to rationalize to remain globally competitive. If there's no other option but retrenchment, employers should strive to minimize its extent and mitigate its adverse effects. It is important that employers and worker representatives work through the process of joint consultation, consider any various options, and agree on ways to avoid job losses altogether. If that is not possible, job losses should be kept obviously to a minimum. Employers should also strive to reach agreement on severance pay and selection procedures if possible. New developments. Every new technological development or innovation brings about far-reaching changes, which a company could experience as a threat or even opportunity. The threats, you might wonder, it could be, for example, retrenchment, job losses coming along based on the fact now technology is now taking over something that a human was doing. Obviously, opportunities could mean that there could be new products going to be developed or new systems need developed, which obviously could also mean more people need to employ in order to do those tasks. Technological development is increasing at a rapid pace. So much so that man has invented more in the last 5 decades than in the preceding 5,000 years. And it's up to businesses to keep up with this development or get left behind. Keeping up to date with general economic conditions forms an essential part of many businesses. The economic changes affect your business planning, your purchasing, your sales, and marketing forecasting. You need to choose what is the most appropriate sources depending on your industry and also the type of work that you do. For example, if you need to, find a mentor. Trade organizations, trade shows and conferences, look at the media. If you don't keep up to date with the different changes in your business sector, then you might get left behind and lose out on clients as well as potential business. Also, looking at groups of people that for the kind of work that might be effective for each event. Look at the state of the economy. Obviously, unfortunately, leaves no one untouched. From the poorest to the richest, everyone is affected by any economic downturn. For instance, rising fuel prices affects every sector of the economy, from everybody who uses the transport as well as for goods that are being delivered. We are all affected by this. When we go shopping, we're affected in the prices of the goods or groceries that we purchase. Also, you might not be able to make as often trips to the different supermarkets based on the fact that the price of petrol has increased. Please complete class activity 5 in your workbook. Moving on to people and companies in the news. There are many publications in the world that have key players in the industries that are listed. The most famous being Forbes. This is the magazine that has been running since 1917. Why do you need to know about these successful people? Obviously, by learning about what they've done to become a success is obviously an important learning curve for any person wishing to go into their own new venture. As an entrepreneur, it's always good to learn from those that have already walked that path before. That's why by looking at their history and how they actually made their monies, it will obviously certainly teach you a bit more. They are also people who can actually influence the economy by either opening new companies or even having a hand in obviously massive retrenchments. Also, examples of such newsworthy people, you can see there's Patrice Motsepe, Kanye Dlormo, Nico Oppenheimer, as well as Johann Rupert. Please complete class activity 6 in your workbook. Thank you.